Shalom, Rakem, Kal Yashara'al. How's your peace, Israel? Welcome back to another video. It's been a minute. Um, I've been, you know, through the Spirit, I've had to be taking a different avenue into what the Father wanted me to present to the people. So the scriptures have been at a halt, i.e. reading live. I'm always reading scriptures, but actually reading it in front of a camera, that's just been put on a standstill. But we're going to get straight back into it. We're in chapter 18. Hasafar, Echad, Shama, Wa'al. That's the book, 1 Samuel, and then it's chapter 18. And the context is David and Jonathan's friendship. And it reads on this wise. It says, as soon as he finished speaking to Saul, the soul of Jonathan was knit to the soul of David, and Jonathan loved him as his own soul. And Saul took him that day and would not let him return to his father's house. Then Jonathan made a covenant with David because he loved him as his own soul. And Jonathan stripped himself of the robe that was on him and gave it to David, and his armor, and even his sword, and his bow and his belt. And David went out and was successful wherever Saul sent him, so that Saul set him over the men of war. And this was good in the sight of all the people, and also in the sight of Saul's servants. Context here is Saul's jealousy of David. Chapter 6 says, as they were coming home, when David returned from striking down the Philistines, the women came out of all the cities of Israel singing and dancing to meet King Saul, with tambourines, with songs of joy, and with musical instruments. And the women sang to one another as they celebrated. Saul had struck down his thousands, and David his 10,000s. And Saul was very angry, and this saying displeased him. And he said, they have ascribed to David 10,000s, and to me they have ascribed thousands. And what more can he have but the kingdom? And Saul eyes David from that day on. That the next day a harmful spirit from God rushed upon Saul, and he raved within his house while David was playing the lyre. As he did day by day, Saul had his spear in his hand, and Saul held the spear, for he thought, I will pin David to the wall. But David evaded him twice. Saul was afraid of David because the Lord was with him, but had departed from Saul. So Saul removed him from his presence and made him a commander of 1,000, and he went out and came in before the people. And David had success in all his undertakings, for the Lord was with him. When Saul saw that he had great success, he stood in fearful awe of him. But all Israel and Judah loved David, for he went out and came in before them. The context says David marries Michal. Then Saul said to David, here is my elder daughter, Merab. I will give her to you for a wife. Only be valiant for me and fight the Lord's battles. For Saul thought, let not my hand be against him, but let the hand of the Philistines be against him. And David said to Saul, who am I, and who are my relatives, my father's clan in Israel, that I should be son-in-law to the king? But at the time when Merab, Saul's daughter, should have been given to David, she was given to Adriel the Meholite for a wife. Now Saul's daughter Michal loved David, and they told Saul, and the thing pleased them. Saul thought, let me give her to him, that she may be a snare for him, and that the hand of the Philistines may be against him. Therefore Saul said to David a second time, you shall now be my son-in-law. And Saul commanded his servants, speak to David in private and say, behold, the king has delighted in you, and all the servants love you. Now then become the king's son-in-law. And Saul's servant spoke these words in the ears of David. And David said, does it seem to you a little thing to become the king's son-in-law, since I am a poor man and have no reputation? And the servants of Saul told him thus, and so did David speak. Then Saul said, thus shall you say to David, the king desires no bride price except 100 foreskins of the Philistines, that he may be avenged of the king's enemies. Now Saul thought to make David fall by the hand of the Philistines. And when his servants told David these words, it pleased David well to be king's son-in-law. Before the time had expired, David arose and went along with his men and killed 200 of the Philistines. And David brought their foreskins, which were given in full number to the king, that he might become the king's son-in-law. And Saul gave him his daughter Michal for a wife. But when Saul saw and knew that the Lord was with David, and that Michal, Saul's daughter, loved him, Saul was even more afraid of David. So Saul was David's enemy continually. Then the commanders of the Philistines came out to battle, and as often as they came out, David had more success than all the servants of Saul, so that his name was highly esteemed. Chapter 19. Saul tries to kill David. That's the context. It says, and Saul spoke to Jonathan his son and to all his servants that they should kill David. But Jonathan, Saul's son, delighted much in David, and Jonathan told David, Saul my father seeks to kill you. Therefore be on your guard in the morning. Stay in a secret place and hide yourself. I will go out and stand beside my father in the field where you are, and I will speak to my father about you. And if I learn anything, I will tell you. And Jonathan spoke well of David to Saul his father, and said to him, let not the king sin against his servant David, because he has not sinned against you, because his deeds have brought good to you. For he took his life in his hand, and he struck down the Philistines, and the Lord worked a great salvation for all Israel. You saw it and rejoiced. Why then will you sin against innocent blood by killing David without cause? And Saul listened to the voice of Jonathan. Saul swore, as the Lord lives, he shall not put to death David. He shall not be put to death. And Jonathan called David, and Jonathan reported to him all these things. And Jonathan brought David to Saul, and he was in his presence as before. And there was war. And David went out and fought with the Philistines and struck them with a great blow, so that they fled before him. Then a harmful spirit from the Lord came upon Saul, and as he sat in the house with his spear in his hand, and David was playing the lyre, Saul sought to pin David to the wall with a spear, but he eluded Saul, so that he struck the spear into the wall, and David fled and escaped that night. This is a demonic attack. This is like, when the Father's anointed someone specifically, he's got one individual that's been anointed. Saul was that person that was anointed. So Saul was used to having that, insight, those messages. That was just a norm to him. He had that direct communication. He was getting information, heavenly information. But when that anointing was taken off him and was put on David, Saul dropped. You see, he's not getting all that insight. So because he's not getting all this spiritual information, he's easily influenced by demonic forces. It's not like anyone else. You see what I'm saying? In this case, it could be a lot more specific. The fact that there was a specific demon that was on him. But this demon's obviously wanting to do damage to David because they know the importance of David. They know that Hamashiach is going to come through this lineage, you see. So it's interesting when you see this sort of stuff. It's not really Saul that's really wanting to kill David, but it's the demon that is possessing him that wants David to be killed because they know the prophecy. They know what the Father... Well, they don't necessarily know what the Father's trying to do, but they know that any righteous thing is only going to lead to the fulfillment of the Father's will. Do you get what I'm saying? So whether they know it or not, they're going to want to just stamp out anything. But they know the Bible. That's the one thing they do know. They know the scriptures. But obviously at this period of time, this hasn't been written because this is taking place at that period of time. The only thing would have been written is the Torah. They know the Torah, so they know that someone is probably gonna come because Moses spoke about him. So that's something that, and they actually, even Shaitan knows from the beginning. I don't know if Shaitan, well, yeah, we'll see. I don't know if they knew about the Messiah coming, but Moses spoke about him. That's the thing. So I guess anyone that was going to be anointed, these demons were going to try to, take out, because that was going to fulfill something that Moses was talking about. Let's continue. It says, and Jonathan called David, and Jonathan reported to him all these things. And Jonathan brought David to Saul, and he was in his presence as before. And there was war again. And David went out and fought with the Philistines and struck them with a great blow, so that they fled before him. Then a harmful spirit from the Lord came upon Saul as he sat in the house with his spear in his hand. And David was playing the lyre. And Saul sought to pin David to the wall with the spear, but he eluded Saul, so that he struck the spear into the wall. And David fled and escaped that night. Saul sent messengers to David's house to watch him, that he might kill him in the morning. But Michal, David's wife, told him, "If you do not escape with your life tonight, tomorrow you will be killed." So Michal let David down through the window, and he fled away and escaped. Michal took an image and laid it on the bed, and put a pillow of goat's hair at its head, and covered it with the clothes. Then Saul sent messengers to take David. She said, She said, he is sick. Then Saul sent the messengers to see David, saying, "Bring him up to me in bed, that I may kill him." And when the messengers came in, behold, the image was in the bed with the pillows of goat's hair at its head. Saul said to Michal, "Why have you deceived me thus, and let my enemy go, so that he has escaped?" And Michal answered Saul, "He said to me, 'Let me go. Why should I kill you?'" And David fled and escaped, and he came to Samuel at Ramah and told him all that Saul has done to him. Excuse me. And he and Samuel went and lived at Naoth. And it was told Saul, "Behold, David is in Naoth." I guess it's Naoth in Ramah. Then Saul sent messengers to take David, and when they saw the company of the prophets prophesying, Samuel standing as a head. And Samuel standing as a head over them, the Spirit of God came upon the messengers of Saul, and they all prophesied. When it was told Saul, he sent other messengers, and they also prophesied. And Saul sent messengers again the third time, and they also prophesied. Then he himself went to Ramah and came to the great well that is in Seku, and he asked, "Where are Samuel and David?" And one said, "Behold, they are in Naoth in Ramah." And he went there to Naoth in Ramah, and the Spirit of God came upon him also. And as he went, he prophesied until he came to Naoth in Ramah. And he also stripped off his clothes, and he too prophesied before Samuel, and lay naked all that day and all that night. Thus it is said, "Is Saul also among the prophets?" Context of this is Jonathan warns David. This is chapter 20. Okay. It says David fled from Naoth in Ramah and came and said before Jonathan, "What have I done? What is my guilt, and what is my sin before your father, that he seeks my life?" And he said to him, Far from it, you shall not die. Behold, my father does nothing, either great or small, without disclosing it to me. And why should my father hide this from me? It is not so. But David vowed again, saying, "Your father knows well that I have found favor in your eyes." And he thinks, "Do not let Jonathan know this, lest he be grieved. But truly as the Lord lives, and as your soul lives, there is but a step between me and death." Then Jonathan said to David, "Whatever you say, I will do for you." David said to Jonathan, "Behold, tomorrow is the new moon, and I should not fail to sit at the table with the king. But let me go, that I may hide myself in the field till the third day at evening." Okay. "If your father misses me at all, then say," David earnestly asked, leave of me to run to Bethlehem, the city, for there is a yearly sacrifice. Therefore all the clan, if he says good, it will be well with you, your servant. But if he is angry, then know that harm is determined by him. Therefore deal kindly with your servant, for you have brought your servant into a covenant of the Lord with you. But if there is guilt in me, kill me yourself. Why? For why should you bring me to your father? And Jonathan said, Far be it from you. If I knew that it was determined by my father that harm should come to you, would I not tell you? Then David said to Jonathan, Who will tell me if your father answers you roughly? And Jonathan said to David, Come, let us go into the field. So they both went out into the field. And Jonathan said to David, The Lord, the God of Israel, be witness. When I have sounded out my father about this time tomorrow, or the third day the third day. Sorry, I'll read it again. And Jonathan said to David, The Lord, the God of Israel, be witness. When I've sounded out my father about this time tomorrow on the third day, behold, if he is well disposed towards David, shall I not then send and disclose it to you? But should it please my father to do you harm, the Lord do so to Jonathan, and more also, if I do not disclose it to you and send you away, that you may go in safety. May the Lord be with you, and as he has been with my father. If I am still alive, show me the steadfast love of the Lord, that I may not die. And do not cut off your steadfast love from my house forever, when the Lord cuts off every one of the enemies of David from the face of the earth. And Jonathan made a covenant with the house of David, saying, May the Lord take vengeance on David's enemies. And Jonathan made David swear again by his love for him, for he loved him as he loved his own soul. Then Jonathan said to him, Tomorrow is the new moon. Tomorrow is the new moon, and you will be missed because your seat will be empty. On the third day, go down quickly to the place where you hid yourself when the matter was in hand, and remain beside the stone heap. And I will shoot 3 arrows to the side of it, as though I shot at a mark. And behold, I will send the boy, saying, Go find the arrows. If I say to the boy, Look, the arrows are on this side of you, take them, then you are to come. For as the Lord lives, if it is as the Lord lives, it is safe for you, and there is no danger. But if I say to the youth, Look, the arrows are beyond you, then go, for the Lord has sent you away. And as for the matter of which you and I have spoken, behold, the Lord is between you and me forever. So David hid himself in the field, and when the new moon came, the king sat down to eat food. The king sat on his seat, others at other times on the seat by the wall. Jonathan sat opposite, and Abner sat by Saul's side. But David's place was empty. Yet Saul did not say anything that day, for he thought, Something has happened to him. He is not clean. Surely he is not clean. But on the second day, the day after the new moon, David's place was empty. And Saul said to Jonathan, his son, Why has not the son of Jesse come to the meal, or either yesterday or today? Now, this is quite interesting. I see a brother one time, he tried to break this down in front of people. And yeah, this is what I noticed about this a while back. This is actually a reference in the scriptures that points out that the new moon is the first day, right? Because we've just read through a couple times where he says that tomorrow is the new moon. Then it references the third day. Talks about third day. So they're eating on the new moon. Then it talks about the next day, right? As I just read, is the second day. I don't know where I was reading it. Okay, yeah. So in verse 26, it says, Yet Saul did not say anything that day, for he thought something has happened to him. So this is on the new moon, right? He is not clean. Surely he is not clean. It says, but on the second day, the day after the new moon. So the day after the new moon is the second day, right? This is talking about the day of the week, of the month, even of the week as well, right? Which shows you that the new moon is what establishes the first day, not of a week, because you don't get a new moon every week. It's of the month. So this was at the beginning of the month, and we're dealing with the second day, right? Anyway, let's continue. It says, but on the second day, the day after the new moon, David's place was empty, and Saul said to Jonathan, his son, why has not the son of Jesse come to the meal either yesterday or today? Jonathan answered Saul, David earnestly asked leave of me to asked leave of me to go to Bethlehem. He said, let me go, for our clan holds sacrifice in the city. My brother has commanded me to be there. So now, if I found favor in your eyes, let me get away and see my brothers. For this reason, he has not come to the king's table. Then Saul's anger has kindled against Jonathan, and he said to him, you son of a perverse, rebellious woman, do I not know that you have chosen the son of Jesse to your own shame and to the shame of your mother's nakedness? For as long as the son of Jesse lives on earth, neither you nor your kingdom shall be established. Therefore send and bring him to me, for he shall surely die. Then Jonathan answered Saul his father, why should he be put to death? What has he done? But Saul hurled his spear at him to strike him. So Jonathan knew that his father was determined to put David to death. And Jonathan rose from the table in a fierce anger and ate no food. Wow, do you see this? The second day of the month, for he was agreed for David because his father had disgraced him. So this actually shows you, right, that the new moon is the first day of the month, right? Because we just read he ate dinner on the first day, right? It says new moon, then it says the second day, right? But then it's also talking, it says Jonathan rose from the table in fierce anger and ate no food the second day of the month, which is the day after the new moon. So what's the first day of the month? New moon, right? For he was grieved for David because his father had disgraced him. In the morning, Jonathan went out into the field to the appointment with David with him a little boy. And he said to the boy, run and find the arrow I've shot. Shoot. And the boy ran, and he shot an arrow beyond him. And when the boy came to the place of the arrow that Jonathan had shot, Jonathan called after the boy and said, is not the arrow beyond you? And Jonathan called after the boy, hurry, be quick, do not stay. So Jonathan's boy gathered up the arrows and came to his master. But the boy knew nothing. Only Jonathan and David knew the matter. And Jonathan gave his weapons to his boy and said to him, go and carry them to the city. And as soon as the boy had gone, David rose from beside the stone heap and fell on his face to the ground and bowed 3 times. And they kissed one another and wept with one another. David wept the most. Then Jonathan said to David, go in peace, because we have sworn both of us in the name of the Lord, saying, the Lord shall be between me and you, and between my offspring and your offspring forever. And he rose and departed. Jonathan went into the city. Context is David and the holy bread. Okay, how much we got left on first one? Okay. Anyway, chapter 21. And it reads, says, David came to Nob, or Noab, to Ahimelech the priest, and Ahimelech came to meet David, trembling, and said to him, why are you alone and no one with you? And David said to Ahimelech the priest, the king has charged me with the matter, and said to me, let no one know anything of the matter about which I send you, and with which I have charged you. I have made an appointment with the young men for such and such a place. Now then, what do you have on hand? Give me 5 loaves of bread, or whatever is here. And the priest answered David, I have no common bread on hand, but there is holy bread, if the young men have kept themselves from women. And David answered the priest, truly women have been kept from us as always when I go on expedition. The vessels of the young men are holy, even when it's an ordinary journey. How much more today will their vessels be holy? So the priest gave him the holy bread, for there was no bread there but the bread of the presence. Yeah, the bread of life, but the bread of the presence, which is removed from before the Lord, to be replaced by hot bread on the day it is taken away. Now a certain man of the servants of Saul was there that day, detained before the Lord. His name was Doeg the Edomite, the chief of Saul's herdsmen. And David said to Ahimelech, then have you not here a spear or a sword at hand? For I have brought neither my sword nor my weapons with me, because the king's business required haste. And the priest said, the sword of Goliath, the Philistine, whom you struck down in the valley of Eliah, behold, it is here, wrapped in cloth behind the ephod. If you will take that, take it, for there is none but that here. And David said, there is none like that, give it to me. Context says David flees Gath. And David rose and fled that day from Saul and went to Achish, the king of Gath. And the servants of Achish said to him, Is not this David the king of the land? Did they not sing to one another of him in dances? Saul has struck down this thousands, and David his 10,000. And David took these words to heart and was much afraid of Achish, the king of Gath. So he changed his behavior before them and pretended to be insane in their hands, and made marks on the doors of the gate, and let his spittle run down his beard. Then Achish said to his servants, Behold, you see that the man is mad. Why then have you brought him to me? Do I lack madman that you have brought this fellow to behave as a madman in my presence? Shall this fellow come into my house? Context: David at the cave of Adullam, chapter 22. David departed from there and escaped to the cave of Adullam. And when his brothers and all his father's house heard it, they went down there to him. And everyone who was in distress, and everyone who was in debt, and everyone who was bitter in soul, gathered to him, and he became commander over them. And there were with him about 400 men. And David went from there to Mizpah of Moab, and he said to the king of Moab, Please let my father and my mother stay with you, till I know what God will do for me. And he left them with the king of Moab, and they stayed with him all the time that David was in the stronghold. Then the prophet Gad said to David, Do not remain in the stronghold. Depart and go into the land of Judah. So David departed and went into the forest of Hereth. The context says Saul kills the priest at Moab. Now Saul heard that David was discovered, and the men who were with him. Saul was sitting at Gibeah under the tamarisk tree on the height with his spear in his hand, and all his servants were standing about him. And Saul said to his servants who stood about him, Hear now, people of Benjamin, will the son of Jesse give every one of you fields and vineyards? Will he make you all commanders of thousands and commanders of hundreds? That all of you have conspired against me? No one discloses to me when my son makes a covenant with the son of Jesse. None of you is sorry for me or can disclose to me that my son has stirred up my servant against me to lie in wait as at this day. Then answered Doeg the Edomite, who stood by the servants of Saul, I saw the son of Jesse come into Moab to Ahimelech the son of Ahitub, and he inquired of the Lord for him, and gave him provisions, and gave him the sword of Goliath the Philistine. Then the king sent to summon Ahimelech the priest, the son of Ahitub, and all his father's house. And the priests who were at Moab, and all of them came to the king. And Saul said, Hear now, son of Ahitub. And he answered him, Here I am, my lord. And Saul said to him, Why have you conspired against me, you and the son of Jesse, in that you have given him bread and a sword, and you have inquired of God for him, so that he has risen against me, to lie in wait as at this day? Then Ahimelech answered the king, Who among all the servants is so faithful as David? Who is the king's son-in-law, and captain over your bodyguard, and honored in your house? Is today the first time that I have inquired of God for him? No, let not the king impute anything to his servant or to all the house of my father, for your servant has known nothing of all this, much or little. And the king said, You shall surely die, and Ahimelech, you and all your father's house. And the king said to the guard who stood about him, Turn and kill the priests of the Lord, because their hand also is with David. And they knew that he fled and did not disclose it to me. But the servants of the king would not put out their hand to strike the priests of the Lord. Then the king said to Doeg, You turn and strike the priest. And Doeg the Edomite turned and struck down the priest and killed. And he killed on that day 85 persons who wore the linen ephod. Now look at this. See, none of the Israelites were willing to kill their own brethren, but the Edomite, right? This is Esau's children. This is why we're not supposed to what? Mix. You see, having all these other nations mixed amongst us is a thorn in our side. Unless they are literally following the same instructions. But in this case, he was not. This is a warrior. I don't think that they're adhering to like laws and things like this as we do, right? If they did, they wouldn't be trying to seek to kill David. You see what I'm saying? So this is depressing looking at this. The fact that Saul, the Benjamite, is working with an Edomite to destroy his own people. And no wonder why David ended up becoming king. It says, and Nawab, the city of the priests, he put to the sword, both men and women and child and infant, ox, donkey, and shit, he put to the sword. Wow. But one of the sons of Ahimelech, the son of Ahitub, named Abiathar, escaped and fled after David. And Abiathar told David that Saul had killed the priests of the Lord. And David said to Abiathar, I knew on that day that when Doeg, the Edomite, was there, that he would surely tell Saul, it says, I have occasioned the death of all the persons of your father's house. Stay with me. Do not be afraid, for he who seeks my life seeks your life. With me you shall be in safekeeping. Okay, this is chapter 23. It says, David saves the city of Keilah. Now they told David, behold, the Philistines are fighting against Keilah and are robbing the threshing floors. Therefore David inquired of the Lord, shall I go and attack these Philistines? And the Lord said to David, go and attack the Philistines and save Keilah. But David's men said to him, behold, we are afraid here in Judah. How much more then if we go to Keilah against the armies of the Philistines? Then David inquired of the Lord again, and the Lord answered him, arise, go down to Keilah, for I will give the Philistines into your hand. And David and his men went to Keilah and fought with the Philistines and brought away their livestock and struck them down a great blow. So David saved the inhabitants of Keilah. And when Abiathar, the son of Ahimelech, had fled to David to Keilah, he had come down with an ephod on his hand. And now it was told Saul that David had come to Keilah. And Saul said, God has given him into my hand, for he has shut himself into he has shut himself in by entering a town that has gates and bars. And Saul summoned all the people to war to go down to Keilah to besiege David and his men. David knew that Saul was plotting harm against him, and he said to Abiathar the priest, bring the ephod here. Then David said, O Lord, God of Israel, your servant has surely heard that Saul seeks to come to Keilah to destroy the city on my account. Will the men in Keilah surrender me into his hand? Will Saul come down as your servant has heard? O Lord, the God of Israel, please tell your servant. And the Lord said, he will come down. Then David said, will the men of Keilah surrender me and my men into the hand of Saul? And the Lord said, they will surrender you. Then David and his men, who were about 600, arose and departed from Keilah and went wherever they could go. When Saul was told that David had escaped from Keilah, he gave up the expedition, and David remained in the strongholds in the wilderness, in the hill country of the wilderness of Ziph. And Saul sought him every day, but God did not give him into his hands. Context is Saul pursues David. Verse 15 says, David saw that Saul had come out to seek his life. David was in the wilderness of Ziph and Horesh, and Jonathan, Saul's son, rose and went to David at Horesh and strengthened his hand in God. And he said to him, do not fear, for the hand of Saul, my father, shall not find you. You shall be king over Israel, and I shall be next to you. Saul, my father, also knows this. And the two of them made a covenant before the Lord. David remained at Horesh, and Jonathan went home. When the Zephites went up to Saul at Gibeah, saying, is not David hiding amongst us in the strongholds at Horesh, on the hill of Hachilah, which is south of Yeshimon? Now come down, O king, according to all your heart's desire, to come down and and our part shall be to surrender him into the king's hand. And Saul said, May you be blessed by the Lord, for you have had compassion on me. Go make yet more sure Go make yet more sure. No one see the place where his foot is, and who has seen him there? For it is told me that he is very cunning. See therefore and take note of all the lurking places where he hides, and come back to me with sure information. Then I will go with you, and if he is in the land, I will search him out among all the thousands of Judah. And they arose and went to Ziph ahead of Saul. Now David and his men were in the wilderness of Maon in Arabah, the south of Yeshimon. And Saul and his men went to seek him, and David was told. So he went down to the rock and lived in the wilderness of Maon. And when Saul heard that, he pursued after David in the wilderness of Maon. Saul went on one side of the mountain, and David and his men on the other side of the mountain. And David was hurrying to get away from Saul, and Saul and his men were closing in on David and his men to capture them. And the messenger came to Saul, saying, Hurry and come, for the Philistines have made a raid against the land. So Saul returned from pursuing after David and went against the Philistines. Therefore, that place was called the Rock of Escape. And David went up from there and lived in the strongholds of En-gedi. Chapter 24. David spares Saul's life. And it says, When Saul returned from following the Philistines, he was told, Behold, David is in the wilderness of En-gedi. Then Saul took 3,000 chosen men out of Israel and went to seek David and his men in front of the wild goats' rocks. And he came to the sheep's fold by the way, where there was a cave, and Saul went in to relieve himself. Now David and his men were sitting in the innermost parts of the cave, and the men of David said to him, Here is the day on which the Lord said to you, Behold, I will give your enemy into your hand, and you shall do to him as it seems good to you. Then David arose and stealthily cut off a corner of Saul's robe, and afterwards David's heart struck him because he had cut off the corner of Saul's robe. He said to his men, The Lord forbid that I should do this thing to my Lord's anointed, to put out my hand against him, seeing he is the Lord's anointed. So David persuaded his men with his sword and did not permit them to attack Saul. And Saul rose up and left the cave and went out his way. After David arose and went out of the cave and called after Saul, My Lord, my king. And when Saul looked behind him, David bowed down with his face to the earth and paid homage. And David said to Saul, Why do you listen to the words of men who said, Behold, David seeks your harm? Behold, this day your eyes have seen how the Lord gave you into my hands in the cave, and some told me to kill you, but I spared you. I said, I will not put out my hand against my Lord, for he is the Lord's anointed. See, my father, see the corner of your robe in my hand. For by the fact that I cut the corner of your robe, I did not kill you, you may know and see that there is no wrong or treason in my hand. I have not sinned against you, though you hunt my life to take it. May the Lord judge between me and you. May the Lord avenge me against you, but my hand shall not be against you. As the proverb of the ancient says, out of the wicked comes wickedness, but my hand shall not be against you. Hallelujah. After whom has the king of Israel come out? After whom do you pursue? After a dead dog? After a flea? May the Lord therefore be judge and give sentence between me and you, and see to it, and plead my cause, and deliver me from your hand. As soon as David had finished speaking these words to Saul, Saul said, Is this your voice, my son David? And Saul lifted up his voice and wept. He said to David, You are more righteous than I, for you have repaid me good, whereas I have repaid you evil. And you have declared this day how you have dealt with me, and in that you did not kill me when the Lord put me into your hands. For if a man finds his enemies, will he let him go away safely or safe? So may the Lord reward you with good for what you have done to me this day. And now, behold, I know that you shall surely be king, and that the kingdom of Israel shall be established in your hand. Swear to me, therefore, by the Lord, that you will not cut off my offspring after me, and that you will not destroy my name out of my father's house. And David swore this to Saul, and then Saul went home. But David and his men went up to the stronghold. Chapter 25. The death of Samuel. Now Samuel died, and all the Israel assembled and mourned for him, and they buried him in the house of Ramah. Context: David and Abigail. Then David rose and went to the wilderness of Paran, and there was a man at Maon, whose business was in Carmel. The man was very rich, and he had 3,000 sheep and 1,000 goats. He was shearing his sheep in Carmel. Now the name of the man was Nabal, and the name of his wife Abigail. The woman was discerning and beautiful, but the man was harsh and badly behaved. He was a Calebite. David heard in the wilderness that Nabal was shearing his sheep. So David sent 10 young men, and David said to the young men, "Go up to Carmel and go to Nabal and greet him in my name, and thus you shall greet him. Peace be to you, and peace be to your house, and peace be to all that you have. I hear that you have shearers. Now your shepherds have been with us, and we did them no harm, and they missed nothing all the time they were in Carmel. Ask your young men, and they will tell you. Therefore, let my young men find favor in your eyes, for we come on a feast day. Please give whatever you have at the hand to your servant and to your son David." When David's young men came, they said all this to Nabal in the name of David. And then they waited, and Nabal answered David's servant, "Who is David? Who is the son of Jesse? There are many servants these days who are breaking away from their masters. Shall I take my bread and my water and my meat that I have killed for my shearers and give it to men who come from I do not know where?" So David's young men turned away and came back and told him all this. And David said to his men, "Every man strap on his sword." Every man of them strapped on his sword. David also strapped on his sword, and about 400 men went up after David, while 200 remained with their baggage. But one of the young men told Abigail, Nabal's wife, "How David sent messengers out of the wilderness to greet our master, and he rallied at them. Yet the men were very good to us, and we suffered no harm. We did not miss anything when we were in the fields, as long as we went with them. They were a wall to us both night and by day, and all the while we were with them, keeping the sheep. Now therefore know this and consider what you should do, for harm is determined against our master and against all his house, and he is such a worthless man that one cannot speak to him." Then Abigail made haste and took 200 loaves and 2 skins of wine and 5 sheep already prepared, 5 seahs of parched grain and 100 clusters of raisins and 200 cakes of figs, and laid them on donkeys. And she said to her young men, "Go on before me, behold, I come after you." But she did not tell her husband Nabal, and she rode on a donkey and came down under cover of the mountain. Behold, David and his men came down toward her, and she met them. Now David had said, "Surely in vain have I guarded all that this fellow has in the wilderness, so that nothing was missed of all that belonged to him, and he has returned me evil for good. God do so to the enemies of David, and more so, if by morning I leave so much as one male of all who belong to him." Then Abigail saw David. She hurried and got down from the donkey and fell before David on her face and bowed to the ground. She fell at his feet and said, on his feet and said, "On me alone, my lord, be the guilt. Please let your servant speak in your ears and hear the words of your servant. Let not my lord regard this worthless fellow, Nabal, for as his name is, so is he. Nabal his name, and folly is with him. But I, your servant, did not see the young men of my lord whom you sent. Now then, my lord, as the Lord lives, and as your soul is, because the Lord has restrained you from blood guilt and from saving with your hand, and now then let your enemies and those who seek to do evil to my lord be as Nabal. Now let this present that your servant has brought to my lord be given to the young men who followed my lord. Please forgive the trespass of your servant, for the Lord will certainly make my lord a sure house, because my lord is fighting the battles of the Lord, and evil shall not be found in you so long as you live. If men rise up to pursue you and seek your life, the Lord of my Lord shall be bound in the bundle of the living, in the care of the Lord your God, and the lives of your enemies he shall sling out as from the hollow of a sling, and the Lord has done to my Lord according to all the good that he's spoken concerning you, and has appointed you prince over Israel. My Lord shall have no cause of grief or pangs, or conscience for having shed blood without cause, or for my Lord working salvation himself. And when the Lord has dealt well with my Lord, then remember your servant. And David said to Abigail, Blessed be the Lord, the God of Israel, who sent you this day to meet me. Blessed be your discretion, and blessed be you, who have kept me this day from blood guilt and from working salvation with my own hand. For as surely as the Lord, the God of Israel, lives, who has restrained me from hurting you, unless you have hurried and come to me, truly by morning, there had not been left to Nabal so much as one male. Then David received from her hand what she has brought him, and he said to her, Go up in peace to your house. See, I have obeyed your voice, and I have granted your petition. And Abigail came to Nabal, and behold, he was holding a feast in his house, like the feast of a king. And Nabal's heart was merry with him, for he was very drunk. So she told him nothing at all until the morning light. In the morning, when the wine had gone out of Nabal, his wife told him these things, and his heart died with him, and he became as a stone. And about 10 days later, the Lord struck Nabal, and he died. When David heard that Nabal was dead, he said, Blessed be the Lord who avenged the insult I received at the hand of Nabal, and has kept back his servant from wrongdoing. The Lord has returned the evil of Nabal on his own head. Then David sent and spoke to Abigail at Carmel. They said to her, David has sent us to you to take him as a wife. And she rose and bowed with her face to the ground and said, Behold, your handmaid is a servant to wash the feet of the servant of my Lord. And Abigail hurried and rose and mounted the donkey, and her five young women attended her. She followed the messengers of David and became his wife. David also took Ahinoam of Jezreel, and both of them became his wives. And Saul had given Michal, his daughter, David's wife, to Palti, the son of Laish, who was Galim. How much is left? Okay, it's quite good. I might even stop here. Only reason is just gives enough, because we're nearly finished this. So I think it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's 6 chapters left, and I reckon I'll probably do that in the next video. So I only hope the reading and the reader and listener to this word will be edified from what we're reading. This is a period where, David, it's showing the development from David. You can take a lot from this, what we just read. It's showing you like the progression of someone being anointed by the Father, and what you go through in order for you to confirm, to prove that you are who you say you are, because the Father has chosen you for this reason. You've killed Goliath, and now he wants to make you king. But in order for you to be king, you've got to go through the ropes. It's not a straightforward thing. Like, you've got to prove yourself. You see what I'm saying? That's the same way as Israel. He proved himself that he would get the blessing. You see what I'm saying? And that his name would be changed from Jacob to Israel, because Jacob is a supplanter, but his name was changed to Israel because he wrestled with God and he prevailed. You see what I'm saying? That's the kind of thing that we have to do. That the Father will put us through situations, right? And we have to prevail. That's one thing we have to do. We have to prevail. And sometimes it's not very easy to see, what the outcome is going to be. Do you get what I'm saying? But if you're operating in the Spirit, you're getting constant gratification every second, because you can hear that still voice. You know exactly the signs, the symbols, all this sort of stuff that is operating within your vicinity. It's made known to you. You see. So yeah, we're gonna keep sounding the trumpet. Got 6 more chapters of the book of Shama Wa'al Echad, the first Samuel, and then we'll be going into 2nd Samuel. Then we'll be going into some historical books, i.e. the Kings and Chronicles, and then once we've done that, we'll be going into the prophetic books. You see, so this is getting quite exciting. So may Yahweh bless you, may Yahweh keep you, may Yahweh shine his face upon you, may Yahweh be gracious to you. May Yahweh lift up his countenance upon you, and may Yahweh grant you everlasting peace in Yeshua. HaMashiach's name I pray. Selah.